With all the recent talks of Pirates of the Caribbean recently and how Johnny Depp won't return for a sixth film for $300 million and a million alpacas, I took this time to support Johnny Depp and rewatch all of the Pirates films, and all it made me do was realize that without Johnny Depp, there is no Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not talking about the ride at Disney World, because sure, there was a ride before the films, but these films just don't work without his character. There were talks about a Margot Robbie-centric spin-off without him, and then he was fired from Pirates 6, and now there's talks of a reboot, but none of this is going to work without him. It's not only that Jack Sparrow is a core element that contributes to the film's success, it's Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow that made them successful. Sure, Jack Sparrow is a funny and quirky character, but there's a lot more than that made these films so successful. Today I'm going to go over just how great Johnny Depp's character is written and how the story structure of the Pirates of the Caribbean films is unlike most hero's journey type films. But first, if you're new around here, I'm the Thrifty Typewriter, and I make all kinds of videos on all things fantasy, sci-fi, and mystery, so if those sound like things that you're interested in, consider hitting that subscribe button and joining my Discord for some fun conversations. Be on the lookout for 2 new videos every week, and let's get on with the video. It may surprise a lot of people to hear that Jack Sparrow is actually not the protagonist of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I know that's ridiculous, he's first billing and featured prominently on every single poster for the franchise, but for the first 3 films, he actually takes the place of the mentor, while Will Turner is the classic protagonist that goes on the hero's journey. Most mentors people think of are wise old men who have been through a lot to help the hero discover their powers and help them on their journey to becoming something akin to the Chosen One. Enter Jack Sparrow. Jack Sparrow is unlike any mentor figure that we've ever seen in any movie before. Part of this is because Pirates of the Caribbean always stays true to the core of what pirates really are, but a larger part of this is due to Johnny Depp and the writers of the film. What makes Jack Sparrow such a great character is how fun Johnny Depp portrays him, and how the writers crafted such a character that is unlike any other in his category. The core of Jack Sparrow's character is luck. He's misunderstood, people think he's far less of a threat than he actually is, because Jack is actually incredibly smart. He has the knowledge and power to always gain the upper hand over those who oppose him, or to outsmart his enemies to get him out of bad situations. But none of this can happen if he wasn't as lucky as he is. He's always put in situations that if someone else or if something else weren't around, then he wouldn't have survived. Take his time marooned on the island, for example. For the first time, if the rum wasn't there, then the rum runners wouldn't have found him and saved him, and for the second time, if he wasn't with Elizabeth, then the Commodore wouldn't have found him. While he does help others and sacrifice himself occasionally, he only ever does it when he gains something for himself, keeping true to his pirate nature. Of course, all the things I've been saying are primarily based off of the first film, which is, to me, undoubtedly the best Pirates film and just a great film in general. The others never quite managed to capture what made this movie so great. They more so just feel like caricatures of the first film, trying to recapture the magic of the first film, but on a grander scale. The first film has ridiculous stunts that definitely aren't realistic, but are still plausible to the common eye. The second and third films, which I'm going to be talking about from now on, are definitely on a grander scale, but also 10 times more ridiculous than the first film. The first film had a supernatural and magical element to it, but it was still more or less grounded when compared to the second and third films. The first film, Jack and Will fight on a wagon that acts as a seesaw that springs them both up into the rafters. That's silly, but it adds to the fight and the overall tone of the film that is going for. Not super realistic, but logically, in this world, sure, that could happen. In the second film, they fight on a rusted windmill that rolls through the jungle. Definitely still fun, and if this video does well, I'll do another video on why the third act of Dead Man's Chest is basically perfect, but by the third movie, we have Jack and Elizabeth parachuting out of a monsoon in the most ridiculous fashion. To me, the second and third films never quite captured the magic, tone, or feel of the first film. I think that the second film definitely hits its stride, and that stride is probably the best Pirates of the Caribbean ever, but the film as a whole feels a little bit bloated. The sequels felt too grand and barbaric compared to the smaller scale of the first film. I understand sequels get bigger, and while I like the story of Davy Jones and where they went with the sequels when it comes to character arcs, I just think that the films were never fully fleshed out or paced entirely well. Part of this is actually due to the success of the first Pirates of the Caribbean. 2 sequels were ordered to be shot back to back, with Dead Man's Chest being released in 2006 and At World's End being released in 2007. This meant that they had 3 years for pre-production on not 1, but 2 movies. I know 3 years sounds like a lot, but for 2 films, it's really not a whole lot of time to write the scripts, go through the hundreds of hours of pre-production that includes costuming, location scouting, casting, CGI, and so many other tasks. While these movies were massive hits at the box office, they weren't as well received by critics or fans as the first one was. I think looking back, the fans have definitely reacted better to films 2 and 3, but at the time they came out, they were not really too well received. These are 2 very good and watchable films. There's more to love than hate by a long shot, but they're still pretty flawed despite having a great premise and characters in them. It just makes me wonder what the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise could have been if there was more time to actually develop the films. This trilogy, while good, could have been on par with The Lord of the Rings or The Dark Knight or even the recent Planet of the Apes trilogy. Like I said, 2 and 3 are flawed films, but I still enjoy watching them, particularly the second film. The third is a bit too long and too bloated and just a little bit confusing to casually sit down and enjoy watching. Then there's films 4 and 5. I won't get too in-depth about these films, but to me they took what worked about Pirates of the Caribbean and threw it out the window. There's still cool moments and set pieces, but Jack Sparrow is no longer the smart, misunderstood character he once was. He's an idiot. A fun, lovable idiot for sure, but not cool or clever or even as lucky as he once was. Jack Sparrow, in more ways than one, is the Pirates of the Caribbean. Without him and his character, these films just don't quite work. In fact, films 4 and 5 barely worked with him in them, so if they try to move ahead with a sequel, reboot, prequel, or spin-off without Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, the films will simply fail in all regards. While Jack Sparrow was a shell of the smart, misunderstood, lucky guy he was in the last 2 entries, he was still Johnny Depp and he was still Jack Sparrow. It's always going to be entertaining to see him and his character on screen. If you take Jack out of films 4 and 5, then they are on the lower to bad tier of fantasy film. I know Mr. Depp has said that he will never be in a Pirates movie again, and I don't necessarily blame him for that sentiment. There's obviously a lot of moving parts at work here between the trial and all the studios, and I have no idea or insight to, but whatever film it may be, Pirates or otherwise, I know I will be watching the next film that Johnny Depp stars in. What are your thoughts on Pirates of the Caribbean and Captain Jack Sparrow? Would you enjoy a Pirates film without him in it? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video and want to see more Pirates of the Caribbean videos, let me know that too. Remember to leave a like and consider hitting that subscribe button. If you do, then I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah.